Hello, 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 everybody. I hope and pray that your week is off to an amazing start. Hey, you guys, thank you so much for joining me so quickly. Do me a favor and put in the chat where you're joining me from. I would absolutely love, love, love to give you a shout out. Again, I hope and pray that your week is off to an amazing start. For me, again, I usually try to be off on the weekends. I help one of my girlfriends with her tea company, and this weekend. So we had a good time with that. But again, you guys, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate you. Please put in the chat where you're joining me from. I would absolutely love, love, love to give you a shout out because it is Tuesday, and you guys know what goes down here on Tuesday. White chat goes down here on Tuesday. So do me a favor, tap a friend and say, you know what? Dr. Gail's on here talking and answering a question, and I want you to hear what she has to say. And so, again, I pray that you guys are off to a great start and your week is off to a great start. Do me a favor and put in the chat where you're joining me from so I can give you a shout out. And so, I don't know. I live in Maryland, and let me just tell you, Maryland has gotten cold again. We was in the 70s, and now we're waking up to the 30s. I don't know what's going on with this weather, but I am sick and tired of being cold. I don't know where you guys are, but I'm thinking, we about to hit April. We should be, a little bit warmer than we are, but we're not. So, but anyway, again, you guys, thank you so much for joining me. Please put in the chat where you're joining me from. And so tonight's chat comes from a young man who is from New York City. He says he's engaged. He's an engaged man for 4 years. He's slated to be married in October 2024. Hello, Fila from Jacksonville, North Carolina. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for putting your information in there. I appreciate you for hopping on and allowing me to give you a shout out. He's an engaged man, dating for 4 years, slated to get married in October. And his question is, how do I know if I'm marrying the right woman? Hello, Dr. Gail. I have been a serial dater for years, and I have been afraid of the word marriage for years because of what seen my parents go through and my friends and my family. I have been dating this wonderful woman for 4 years, and I asked her to marry me. I'm about to hit 50 years old, and I realize that she's the one. But I have some questions to make sure that I don't end up like my parents and my friends and my family. Must say I am getting some cold feet, not because of her, just because of what I've seen other people go through when they say they're married. The sex stops, the fun stops, all of those things stop. And that's the reason why I'm reaching out. So I want to thank this young man for reaching out and really wanting to make sure that he's making the right decision to get married to this young lady after 4 years. Now, I want to applaud her for hanging in there 4 years because that's a long time to be with someone and that now is finally ready to get married. And I'm sure that she was aware that he had dated a lot of people or whatever. And so, and I also applaud him for just wanting to get some reassurance that their marriage is going to last. And I want to start off by saying, first of all, that your marriage, your experience is not going to be the same as your parents or your friends or your other family members, right? Because marriages just don't fall apart. Marriages just don't happen. It is a progression, right? And I don't know, I didn't get the opportunity, he didn't email me back to ask him what was the things that he's seen in his parents' marriage that made him not want to be married. What did he see in his friends and family's marriage that made him put a roadblock up and say, I'm not going to do this. Okay. And so I want to give you guys, if you're in a situation where you are thinking about getting married or you're afraid to get married, I want to give you 8 questions that you should ask your potential spouse before you get married. And these questions actually came because I used to teach a class for women who would desire to get in committed relationships called Seal the Deal, right? And these questions are questions that, I'll be married 37 years, that I did not get asked, and I didn't have premarital counseling. And I suggest, if you have any kind of questions or you're getting leery or whatever, that you do seek out premarital counseling. And I'm not saying that you have to go to a church to do it. I'm just saying, get somebody who's qualified to guide you, to make sure that you start your marriage on the best footing possible, right? And you can avoid a lot of hardship if you do start off on the right foot, right? Okay. Hi, Ruben from South Carolina. I appreciate you joining in. So here's some questions that you need to ask or to evaluate before you walk down the aisle. The first thing is, do we both have the same values and morals, right? Do we value the same things in life, and do we have the same moral compass, right? Because if you are a person that values family and values family get-togethers for the holidays and those kind of things, and that's just something simple, and he or she is like, I don't fool with my family, so we're not going to any kind of family functions, that's going to cause problems as time goes. Okay. So, do you have the same values? Do you have the same moral compass as your potential spouse? That's the first question. And that is a huge one that people always say, oh, well, you know, she wasn't comfortable going to visit my mom and my dad. But if that's something that is valuable to you, that you go visit your parents every weekend, eventually that's going to cause problems, because you're going to feel like she's keeping you away from your parents. Your parents are going to get where they don't like him or her because they're saying that he or she took you away from them, and it's just going to become this thing. Okay. And if you feel like you're going to be stuck between what you value and your significant other. Okay. And you see how that can grow into something that is unhealthy. So, do you value, and do you have the same values and the same moral compass? You know what I mean? And not saying that everything has to match, but the majority of things need to match. Number 2, what is both of your mindset about money? What is your mindset about money? And this was a huge one in my marriage, because Gail was very much the saver, very much frugal, and I was very much the spender, right? And that caused huge problems in our marriage, because he was like, okay, we have to live on a budget. And my thing is, I make it, I'm gonna spend it. Don't tell me what to do, right? And with those two things happening, yeah, I got us into some financial debt, because my mindset was not the same as his. And then on top of it, I was raised where don't let no man handle the money, because you don't know what he's doing, and you're going to walk over, if he leaves you, you're going to be left destitute. So I was handling the money, and I wasn't the right person to handle the money, for the simple fact is I had a shopping addiction, right? And so what is your mindset about money? Because if he's a spender and you a saver, or vice versa, it's going to be some conflict. And you got to have these conversations before you get married, because if not, it's going to be a mess when you try to blend those bank accounts, and you see how much that person really does not handle money well. Okay. Number 2, do you both have the same religious convictions, right? And a lot of people, I know some couples who are one is Muslim and one is Christian, and they manage to make it work, but it's not easy. It's very hard and it's very difficult. Are you a person that likes to go to church on a consistent basis, but your spouse or your potential spouse only goes on the major holidays? How is that going to work out for you? How does that look? Because you're going to be like, oh, come on, you need to go with me. The sermon was really good. Oh, this will help us, whatever. No, it's not Easter. No, it's not Christmas. No, it's not whatever, right? And so that's going to cause problems eventually. And if you guys are totally different opposites and have two different religions, how is that going to mesh? How is that going to work? You need to have those conversations, okay? Are you both? I mean, how is you guys communication, right? Do you guys listen to understand or you listen to respond? When communication is not good and you guys are in an argument, how do you guys handle that? Because if one of you guys flee because you know that you don't have to be there, when you get married, where are you going to go? That causes conflict. And I'm just trying to give this young man some things to think about and to make sure that he addresses all of these things so he might not have the potential outcome that he's seen in his family, his parents, and with his family and his friend, because he is nervous. Okay? But these are questions that you definitely need to ask. And if you're currently married and you're experiencing some of these things are fixable. They are. But you have to take the time to really sit down and figure out why your communication is bad, why your spouse is spending the money they're not supposed to be spending. All of these things, the act is just the surface. What is really the root cause that is making your spouse behave the way they're behaving? Okay? Do you both know who you really are? This is a huge one, because some people go into their marriages looking for that other person to complete them. That's not the other person's job. Only God can do that. And so many people go into marriages looking for the other people to make them happy, to complete them, to give them their destiny, to do all of these things. That is not your potential spouse's job. It's not. And if you married and you're looking for your spouse to make you happy, that's an inside job. Can they add to your happiness? Absolutely. But it's not their job to make you happy. It's not. And so many people, again, think that person is going, if I just can get them down the aisle, this is how I will feel, or this will make me whole, or this. It's not true, because they can't live up to their expectations. So the question is do you know who you are as a person outside of what that other person can add to your life? Do you know who you are? Not your job, not what kind of car you drive, not what zip code you live in, but the core of who you are. Do you know who you are if all that stuff was stripped away? Number 7, is the relationship balanced? And what do I mean by that? So many people go into the relationship giving, 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 hoping that the other person will eventually reciprocate. And when it doesn't happen, that's when you get an unbalanced relationship, and then you always spewing what you did, how you did it, and when you did it. And then that makes the other person feel like, well, why did you marry me then? Because the balance was never there. Marriage is two imperfect people working towards the same goal. Do you miss it sometimes? Absolutely. Are there going to be arguments along the way? Absolutely. Is it going to be disappointments along the way? Absolutely. But is the relationship balanced? Is there going to be times sometimes where you got to go 100 because the person only has 60? Absolutely. But it should switch sometimes. It shouldn't be always you running on 100 and they're always running on 60. That's not a balanced relationship. It's not. And the last question you need to make sure is, do you feel that you can trust this person with your life? Because once you sign on that dotted line, that person has taken on the responsibility of you. And what do I mean by that? Once you get married, unless you put something else in other documents, if you was to become incapacitated that night, that person is the person that's supposed to make the decisions for you. That's what the law says. So the question is, do you trust this person with your life that they're going to make the right decisions for you? That's a huge question. And a lot of times people don't even trust their spouses with their life. That's the reason why they go talk to their boys and go talk to their girlfriends, because they don't even trust them with their words in their heart. But when you say I do, you became the sole source to your spouse. For sex, that should be your best friend. That should be the person you should be able to let your hair down and cry. Men and women, you should be able to trust your spouse with your heart and your life. Is it hard some days? Absolutely. But that should be your go-to girl or guy. Not outside, inside. And so what I say to this young man is, if, and my prayer is, and I'm going to send him a link to this video, but my prayer is that you've been dating this young lady for 4 years, and before then you say you was a serial dater. You took the time and you thought enough of her to say that you was going to get married to her. My thing to you is, stop looking at what happened with your parents and what happened with your family and friends, and look at her as a person. And I suggest you ask these questions and really look at it and say, this is our relationship. Everybody else is two different people, showed up two different ways. I'm going to show up this way. Okay. Does anybody have any questions or any comments that they want to make about this? And I pray that this helps someone in a situation. And if you're married and you're struggling in any of these areas, sit down and have a conversation with your spouse and say, you know what? I have been guarding my heart. This is the reason why. And I need to be able to trust you with my life. Are we really friends? I've been struggling with who I am. I don't really know who I am. All of these things, even though you're married, you have the ability to correct those things. You do. You really do. And so my prayer is that this will help somebody. Hi Star, how are you, sweetie? And that it won't keep him from marrying somebody. You just have to go into marriage understanding what you bring to the table, what she brings to the table, and you guys meet somewhere in the middle. Okay. And like I said, marriage is not going to always be 50-50, but it shouldn't always be 100 and the person's only giving 40% or whatever, and vice versa. It needs to be where you guys are on even playing fields as much as possible. And communication is the key to absolutely everything. Okay. Again, you guys, thank you so much for your comments, Star. I appreciate it. Again, you guys, I love you guys to pieces. If there's nothing else, I will see you guys next week. Please keep your chats coming. You can inbox me. I will never say your name. I will just say where you're from and try to address your issue. Okay. And again, you guys, thank you so much for, like I said, supporting everything that I do. I appreciate you.